Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today we're going to be talking about this cubicle right here. Because late into the night last night, I was texting with Patrick and we were talking about somehow on the topic, as everybody always is trying to say, if you could only take 5 decks, if you could only take 10 decks, what is your soul deck? You know, and if you're going to go on the road for a year, what are the 10 decks, Kelly Bear, that you would take? There's always those kinds of questions, like what would you take if you could only take X number of decks. And people seem to really like to see, like, what are the answers to those questions, because, and then I can understand why, because they do say something right about those particular decks over, especially if you have a collection of decks, of quite a few decks, and then you say, okay, but why did these specific ones stand out? I can see where that would be of interest. Somehow we were talking about limiting or kind of bringing in, and I said, I think it might be nice to have sort of a cubicle that was really reflects, like, what do I actually use? Because we were talking about how the difference was, between somebody who is just privately uses their cards for themselves, as well as maybe for friends or family or whatever, but primarily their reading practices for themselves. That might look very different than somebody who reads professionally. Now, again, I'm sure there's many professional readers who just use one deck of cards, but just in general, that might look a little bit different. So then, of course, that starts, because it was like 12:30 at night. So then my brain starts thinking, oh, okay, well, if I literally was to go on the road, right? Because I watch all kinds of YouTube channels of getting in an RV and traveling the world, or getting a boat and traveling in the world, out into the world, because both of my jobs don't have to have like a central place. I can do them on the road as long as I have an internet connection. So it was like, okay, that is kind of one of those out there dreams of mine, right? So maybe someday hit the road. So if I did hit the road, what decks like would I have to have? Now again, you just need one deck in yourself, which for me would mean Lenormand, tarot, oracle, whatever. I definitely would have more than one single deck, but it could be, compacted down. But in terms of my business practice right now and the readings that I do, what are the decks that I would have to have? And that, I thought, was an interesting way to frame it. I have some over here to the side because they were actually on my table, so I didn't put them up in here, but I pretty much narrowed it down to, we're going to see how many, I can't remember, we'll pull them out and see. And a couple of them, like this one, I wouldn't actually have to have, but I do use it for clients. But most of these are literally ones that I have readings for, that I use these decks specifically. And so what does that end up looking like? So if I were to literally like take my business on the road and have the decks that I use on a regular basis within the framework of the readings that I offer, what would it look like? And so this is what this cubicle is. So let's take a look and see. I do need to grab one second here. There are two down here, because I do sometimes have the decks in sacred space, so they don't show up. And I feel like I really probably misfired with this bright red shirt. It feels, in the viewfinder, it seems extraordinarily neon. So hopefully I'm not going to blind anybody. So these are, of course, the Tao Oracle I have down with my I Ching things in the bottom. I have Geomancy and I Ching, where my coins are, the cast, and all that kind of stuff. Because I do actually offer readings with I Ching, and so I do like these. Even if I'm not using this as an oracle, this is the Tao Oracle, I do like to show, I'll cast perfectly traditionally, but then I do like to show, if I'm taking a picture or something, to be able to set out the actual hexagram from this. It's something that I enjoy to do, and I also use this a lot in Three Voices readings as the oracle. So the Tao Oracle, I've said it a million times, if I could only have one oracle, this would probably be it. So I would not go on the road without my Tao Oracle. So that was over there. That's why it's not up there. So that's one. I guess I'll make piles here. The Tarot of the Hidden Realms is important because I do a check-in reading of Mind, Body, and Soul, where I do 3 cards from Shadowscapes as the mind and the air, kind of up in the air. The Druidcraft as the earth kind of body, which makes sense, so earthy. And then the Tarot of the Hidden Realms as the soul. And I really love the way these three decks, not to mention these are three decks I like in general, but they, for a specific reading that I use, and I like it and people come back for it, these are three decks that I use. So these decks would have to go on. So I'm going to make a pile here for tarot. We'll see how many I end up with. I think it's around 40, but it was late when I got finished, so of course, I don't know. I'm going to save these for a minute. We'll come back to that. The Lavish Earth Crystal Affirmation, literally since I've gotten it, I've used it for almost every single client reading that I've used to wrap it up. So this is like a no-brainer. I use it all of the time, so I would have to have that Oracle deck. So that goes there. So, and then I'm going to set this over here too. These are going to go in their own category. We'll come back to that. So let's just kind of go as we have. So this is the Margaret Peterson Tarot. Number one is it's a soul deck for me, as people like to call it. It's one of the pieces of my many pieces of my soul. I have a video on that. But I use this primarily for grief readings, journey with grief readings that I do. I almost always, not always, there are times in which something else comes forward, but ground zero, kind of what I would initially go to, is Margaret Peterson for that reading. It's very powerful reading. It's something I enjoy being able to do with people, and this deck is a have to have. So that is a tarot deck. So we'll see how many. I think it's going to come out just under 40. That's my guesstimate, if I had to guesstimate. Isabel, come here. Come here. Sorry, they're doing some work in the hallway, and so when anybody is in the hallway, especially my landlords, she doesn't really like them. She barks. So that's what she's upset about. So then, of course, for these would be Cartomancy kind of style. Well, it's kind of as well as that, but I'm going to go with it. This is, I need a playing card reading deck. So this is Arcana Tarot playing cards, just the playing. It's the white, and it's just the playing cards. It's not the tarot deck, because this is what I use. I mean, I will use any deck, but this is primarily what I use for playing card divination. So I would have to have that. Lenormand, I would have to have, of course, my own deck. Who are we fooling, right? That's just like a no-brainer. That's on my, been on my table. It's on my table and will stay on my table. But I also, just for a classic one, I really love this Lenormand Oracle cards by, is it Los Scarabeo? These were priced ridiculously on US Amazon. Bart was like, don't do that. Those aren't that expensive. And so I was able to PayPal him to pick up a cheaper. But there's something about this deck that I really like, the use of the space that's up above. And it's just kind of beautiful and classic. So I do really like that, because I would like, I do like to have just like sort of a classic one. So, but all I would really need was obviously mine. But let's just be realistic. I'll take one like that. And then the Everyday Oracle for Sibylla. I really like this version. I love my El Minigala one. I wouldn't probably take that on the road. Number one. Number two, I do really like this Vera Sibylla Italiana version, which is the Everyday Oracle by Lo Scarabeo. So this is for Sibylla. So I would have to take that for Sibylla. Then, of course, I would have to take my Deste cards. In fact, I have a Deste reading to do today, so I'll just leave these out. But these are the spirit cards. You can see they're starting to get well worn. I use these a lot. These are the spirit ones that you keep out separately, but I love doing Deste readings. And so obviously you can't do Deste reading without a Deste deck. So that would be a must take with me. So that I'm going to put in sort of what I call Cartomancy style readings. So that's there. This is an oracle. This is I wouldn't have to have this. So I do, me, I'm always pushing the boundaries. I would not have to have this. This is the Arcana of Astrology that Patrick got me for Christmas. But I love this for doing astrology. I do astrology, elemental energy birth charts, where you kind of look at your elemental energy, as well as doing astrology tarot reading with it. And I quite like this for that sometimes, depending on what I'm working with. I like the moons there. I just think this would be useful to have. It wouldn't, I will be honest, this wouldn't be necessary. If I had to par something down, I could par this down, but I was trying to be representative of the things that I use. So I'm going to put that in the Oracle as in section and see. We'll see if we stay under 40. I think it's under 40. Now, these two, as well as these, would be kind of what I would consider, not this one. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. These would be kind of staples, right? So the Fountain Tarot, the Japardia Tarot. For me, the Japardia Tarot has become just quite a workhorse for client readings. Same thing with Fountain Tarot. It's just that kind of ground zero, just basic tarot deck. Then, so that's two of those. And then two Pip style tarot decks, Pagan Otherworlds and my absolute favorite Ancient Italian Tarot. So those kind of represent just when I do large basic tarot readings. Those are 4 decks. Of course, obviously I'll still have all these other ones that I've used for other things, so it's not like I just have to use these, but I do use these quite consistently within my client readings. And so these are 4 tarot decks that I would use. And then I've left this in just because I'm using this for clients a lot. This is the Darkness of Light. I haven't had it real long, but I really love it. So I'm just kind of leaving in that like one deck that you just, for whatever reason, right then and there, that's one that you're really loving and using a lot. So that's kind of what this represents here. So I'll put this to the pile with the tarot. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tarot decks. Oops, don't push the Cartomancy too far away. Alrighty. So, and then I think the only other tarot deck, no, I have 2 other tarot decks. This one and this one. So the Marielle I use a lot for, I would have to take it out of this box if I was hitting the road, but I use the Marielle for past life readings quite a bit. And I also, we're going to go in that realm. So past life readings, I use 5 decks consistently. This one changes sometimes. Sometimes I've used like the Darkness of Light. I will change up the main tarot reading that's in the middle, which is a 5 card. That will shift, but I would be perfectly fine doing that always with the Marielle. The reading, that spread actually came from the Marielle guidebook. So I use the primary tarot. I use a secondary tarot to expand one of the cards, which I always use the Arcana playing cards here. I always use, I'm going to pull some of this down. I always use the shamanic healing cards in my past life reading. I always use the archetype cards in my past life. It's the only thing I use this for, but I love it. Works really great in what I use it for. And then I always use a Lenormand deck, which I have obviously mine and the other one. So I generally right now I'm using mine because it's my deck. Let's just be honest. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a Lenormand deck. These represent, my past life readings, which I love to do. And I do always use these particular decks. So those would be must-haves. So let's see, that goes on the tarot pile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus the Marielle. So I'm at 11 tarot decks that I would bring if I was just taking my business on the road and not I wasn't trying to squeeze it down. I was just showing these are literally ones that I use all the time in my business. I wasn't trying to pare this down. So then this is an oracle, this is an oracle, and this is an oracle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now I'm at 6 oracles, but you can see there's more. This goes in my Cartomancy. I do Kipper readings. I love doing Kipper readings, and I always use the fin de sickle. I need to get a backup copy because this is the original that Isabel chewed, and I use it all the time. It's definitely, I don't mind that. I like them. I could put another coat of black on and refresh it, but there's not many Kipper decks out there, and I love this one, so I need to get a backup copy. I probably will do that today because I can see it starting to really, really get worn here. Poor thing, it was chewed on by Isabel. So anyways, Kipper deck I would have to take. That goes with my Cartomancy decks. And then let's set this aside for a minute. And Pagan Otherworlds we already talked about. These three are must-haves for a number of readings. So this is the Wild Unknown Animal Spirits, and the Animal Spirits by Susan Seddon Boulay. I use the three of these in a Animal Spirits reading that people like, and I do quite a bit of. So these are mainstays. Also, I do a Elemental 10 card that I use this at the bottom and this at the top of a 5-card cross, but a bottom of the Animal Spirit and the top of this. So I also use the Wild Unknown for year heads as well as Wheel of the Years. So Wild Unknown is just a staple, and same thing with these other two. So these would be must-haves for me. So that's another tarot. Let's do this. We're building a pile here. Tarot, Oracle. I want to see if we're going to come in under 40. So, okay. Oh, but here's another. There we go. I thought I had 3 Lenormand. This is the 1889 Lenormand. This is one of my oldest using decks. It used to be the Game of Hope, a little one, but I've used this probably the longest of any besides the Piatnik. So I definitely want to take that as well. Although, again, it wouldn't be necessary. All I could do is just take mine. But I was trying to be, thorough, and now, again, I'm not trying to minimize. I'm trying to represent. These are the decks that I use on a continual basis out of my whole collection. So the 4 that you see back there, which I'm going to leave back there, the cosmic reading cards I use. So these 4 decks, the only thing, I use this all the time for other readings, but when I do Wheel of the Years as well as year head spreads, I pull a single oracle card for each of the seasons. And so the winter changes, I'm using right now the cosmic reading cards, which I'm quite liking for winter, the Gaia for, I think, spring, the Secret Language of Animals for summer, and the Halloween Oracle for fall. So I pull one oracle card for each. And so those 4, I mean, I need them. I also do like special oracle systems where people can choose a special oracle system, and I use the Waterhouse Oracle, Madame Endora's playing fortune cards, which I adore, as you all know. Love these. Plus, if I was ever to be on the road and just want to hit like a psychic festival or something, I just feel like these are so embrace the magical. So those for sure. I have to change mine up a little bit, but I would add in the Celtic Tree Oracle, because I'm getting ready to switch these in my shop, but that's for an OM reading, because this is the oldest, second oldest oracle deck, first oldest being a fairy oracle. And then the Celtic Shamans, to do the Celtic Shaman Path spreads that I do. So that's 4, because you get an option of 4, so I need to actually fix that on my shop, but you get the idea. A special oracle systems is what these 4 represent, but they're still oracles. And then we already talked about that. And then this is just my hug deck. Like, just sometimes if you're doing live chat, you need a hug deck, right? And I will be doing live chats on the road, so I would need to have the hug deck. So there we have it. So let's see how many I have. Now this doesn't, of course, I would have my geomancy sticks and dice. I would also have, I have OMs in here, and I would probably have my rune set as well, but this is just like decks that relate to decks. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 oracle decks. I don't even think I talked about this one, but I added in the Oracle of Echoes because I use it all the time, and because it's got Michael in it, and I wouldn't leave it behind. So I don't have a specific reading to that, but I still would have to have it. So what did I say? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 Oracle decks. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. What's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tarot decks, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other cartomancy decks. So who knows what that is altogether? What did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. I think that's what I counted last night. So 36 decks. Is there anything on? Am I missing anything? No, I mean, there's other things that I use. And again, it's not that I don't pull from my collection for other things, but on a normal, everyday basis, this is, these are the decks that I use. And if I were to hit the road, these are the decks that I would take. So 36 decks out of my collection of, I have no clue. I'm in the midst of scanning, so I guess I'll let you know. But probably all together with Cartomancy and Oracle, certainly a good 200, I would think. These are the ones that I would take with me. So there you go. I thought it was interesting. It was kind of interesting to go through my readings and kind of think about sets of things, because it does. I do think it's interesting, because if I'm building a reading around a deck and I'm consistently returning and leaving that reading up, that tells me that that deck, you know, those decks or these decks are decks that I have found work well. They work with the particular reading well, and so, you know, that I think that that's an interesting way to look at your collection, in terms of like, what do you actively use if you're a professional reader in your profession. If you're not a professional reader, like, what are those ones that you do actively most often go back to? So anyways, people are always asking questions like this. They're trying to catch my apartment on fire, trying to have tsunamis come through my apartment, trying to say, oh, if you could only take 20 of this, that, and that. So apparently the number is 36. If I hit the road, Jack, and had to, you know, just take what I actively use in my business, its apparently number is 36. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.